Hey, you think I don't know about YouTube? Well, I do. With today's story, you'll laugh, you'll learn, and you'll remember where you come from and recognize where you are going. The elders say, what the old sees while sitting, a young cannot see even from the top of a tree. So come now, listen well and let the story speak to your spirit.
In the old days, when the sea still frightened men more than the forests did, there stood a fishing village on the coast of Equatorial Guinea, where the elders spoke softly whenever the moon turned red. The village was called Ekam-Mboka. It rested between thick mangrove swamps and the roaring Atlantic waters, where the waves crashed like angry drums against black volcanic rocks. The people there belonged mostly to the Fang and Ndowe families. Fishermen, palm wine tappers, canoe builders, and women whose hands could smoke fish so well that traders traveled for days to buy from them. In Ekam-Mboka, children learned early that every river had ears, every forest had memory, and every island belonged to something older than man. Far beyond the coast, past the place where ordinary fishermen stopped casting their nets, there was an island no one was allowed to visit. The island was called Ekam-Mboka. Even saying its name carelessly invited rebuke from elders. Old women spat on the ground after mentioning it. Hunters touched their foreheads and whispered prayers. Fishermen never pointed toward it directly. They used their lips instead, the way people do when discussing danger. For generations, one law remained untouched. No canoe must land on Ekam-Mboka. No one questioned it openly, but every child secretly wondered why. Among those children was a young fisherman named Baltasar. Baltasar was not wicked. That is how trouble often begins. He was the eldest son of a widowed mother named Mama Efia, a stern fish seller whose back had bent from years of carrying baskets heavier than grief itself. Baltasar had grown up fast after his father drowned during a violent storm when he was only 12. People said the sea took his father, but Mama Efia believed something else. Whenever she sat beside the cooking fire at night, staring too long into the flames, she muttered, "The sea only collects dates." Baltasar hated hearing that. He preferred practical things. Strong nets, sharp hooks, engines, trade routes. He admired men from the city who returned wearing clean shoes and speaking of money instead of spirits. He believed many village fears were merely stories created to control people. Yet, he was not disrespectful. He still bowed to elders, still poured libation during ceremonies, still joined the moon dances during harvest festivals. But in his heart, doubt lived there like a hidden lizard inside a wall. Baltasar had a younger sister named Nalia who adored him fiercely. She followed him everywhere when they were younger, carrying tiny baskets behind him while he repaired nets. Nalia was gentle but observant, the kind of girl who noticed what others ignored. And Nalia feared Ekam-Mboka deeply, not because of stories, because of what she once saw. When she was 9 years old, she had wandered near the shore during a storm. Through the rain, she saw fires burning on the forbidden island. Not one fire, many fires, moving, walking, as if carried by people. But everyone knew no one lived there. When she told the elders, silence swallowed the gathering. An old man named Tatangomo, the village diviner, took white chalk and marked her forehead. Then he said only this: never answer if the island calls your name. After that day, nobody discussed it again. Years passed. Then came the storm. A violent storm destroyed several fishing canoes along the shore, including Baltasar's own boat. Death swallowed him overnight. Traders demanded repayment. His mother secretly sold her bracelets to help him.
The shame burned inside him. 3 nights later, he agreed to a dangerous plan proposed by his closest friend, a hunter named Osa. Osa was broad-shouldered, fearless, and foolish in the dangerous way many admired. He laughed loudly, chased risk like sport, and mocked village superstitions openly. The old men fear ghosts, Osa declared one evening beneath the silk cotton tree while drinking palm wine. Meanwhile, we remain poor. Several elders nearby frowned. Tatangomo slowly lifted his cloudy eyes. The grave does not fear the young man either, he replied. Laughter died immediately. But Osa only grinned. That night, he spoke privately to Baltasar. Let us go there. Baltasar pretended not to understand. To the island, Osa whispered, just once. Baltasar's stomach tightened. No. You fear stories? I fear unnecessary trouble. Osa leaned closer. Men from Bata would pay heavily for photographs, rare wood, even old artifacts. You know this. We go quietly at dawn. We return before sunset. No one will know. Baltasar said nothing. But silence itself is sometimes the beginning of betrayal. For days, the thought poisoned his mind. Mama Efia noticed his distraction immediately. A restless goat eventually enters the leopard's cave, she warned one morning. Baltasar forced a smile. Yet the idea kept growing. Poverty pushes men towards doors wisdom tells them to avoid. And Baltasar was tired of repairing torn nets. Tired of watching others prosper while his mother still counted coins before buying salt. Tired of feeling trapped between ancient fear and modern hunger. Only one other person joined them, a quiet mechanic named Kemi, whose gambling debts had become dangerous. They chose the new moon. No witnesses, no fishermen, no moonlight. Before dawn, the 3 men pushed a small motor canoe silently into the dark Atlantic waters. As the village disappeared behind them, Baltasar felt unease tightening around his chest. The ocean became strangely calm. Too calm. Even Osa stopped joking. Halfway there, Kemi suddenly muttered, "Do you hear singing?" Baltasar listened carefully. At first, there was only water. Then, faintly, voices. Women's voices. Singing somewhere beyond the fog. Soft. Beautiful. Ancient. But there were no boats nearby.
Osa forced a laugh. Probably birds. Yet, no bird sings like grieving women. The closer they moved toward Ekam-Mboka, the colder the air became. Mist wrapped the canoe. Their engine sputtered twice. Then the island emerged. Black cliffs, dense forest, no beach, no birds, no movement. It looked less like land and more like something rising unwillingly from the sea. Kemi crossed himself nervously. We should go back. But Osa had already jumped ashore. Baltasar followed reluctantly. The moment his feet touched the island soil, a foul smell drifted through the trees. Not rot, not dead animals. Something older, like wet graves. The forest swallowed sound strangely. Their footsteps seemed too loud, while the island itself remained unnaturally silent. No insects chirped. No monkeys screamed. Nothing. Then they found footprints. Fresh footprints. Human. Barefoot. Leading inland. Osa grinned triumphantly. You see, people come here secretly. But Baltasar noticed something terrifying. The footprints were enormous and too deep, as if whatever made them was impossibly heavy. They continued deeper into the forest. Soon, they discovered ruins hidden beneath thick vines. Old stone structures covered in moss, remnants from the colonial period when prisoners and forced laborers disappeared along these coasts. Kemi whispered prayers. Inside one crumbling building, they found rusted chains attached to walls. Baltasar's throat tightened. The air felt wrong there.
Heavy with suffering.
Then they discovered the drums. Hundreds of them. Old wooden drums stacked beneath a collapsed shelter. Every single drum covered with strange carvings. Faces screaming, ocean waves, animals with human teeth. Osa touched one carelessly. Immediately, a deep sound echoed through the forest. Boom! Not loud, but alive. Another drum answered somewhere deeper inland. Boom! Then another. Boom! Kemi began trembling. No one struck those drums. The forest suddenly awakened. Branches snapped, leaves rustled violently. Something large moved between trees. Baltasar's instinct screamed, "Run!" But Osa refused. He spotted something half buried beneath roots, an old iron chest. Greed blinded him instantly. Together they dug it free. Inside were colonial coins, carved ivory pieces, and gold religious artifacts blackened with age. Enough wealth to change all their lives. Osa laughed wildly. Even Kemi stared in disbelief. But Baltasar noticed something else inside the chest. Human teeth. Hundreds of them. Then the singing returned. Closer now. Women singing from every direction. The melody twisted through the trees like smoke. Kemi dropped the chest immediately. We are not alone. And suddenly they were. Figures emerged slowly between the trees. Not spirits. People.
Or something close to people. Tall, thin, covered in white clay and seaweed fibers. Their eyes reflected strangely in the darkness. There were dozens of them, silent, watching. Baltasar's blood froze. One stepped forward. An old woman, very old. Her skin looked almost grey beneath layers of chalk markings. When she spoke, her voice sounded like dry leaves scraping stone. You broke the law. Osa lifted his machete. We came for what was abandoned. The old woman smiled sadly. Nothing here was abandoned. Then Baltasar saw it. Among the silent figures stood villagers he recognized. Men declared dead years ago. A fisherman lost at sea. A trader who vanished during the civil troubles long ago. Even a woman buried in Benin some of 3 rainy seasons earlier. Alive. Watching silently from the trees. Kemi screamed first, then ran. The forest exploded with movement. The hidden people chased him instantly. Not running like humans. Faster, jacking strangely through the trees. Kemi's screams echoed only briefly before stopping suddenly. Silence returned. Osa swung his machete wildly. We leave now! But the old woman spoke again. The island keeps what the sea delivers. Baltasar finally understood. The stories were never about ghosts. Ekam-Mboka was a hidden refuge. Generations ago, escaped slaves, prisoners, and abandoned souls had survived there in secrecy. Over time, they became something else entirely. Isolated, hardened, protective, almost feral. Anyone who discovered them could never live freely, not after seeing the truth. Osa grabbed the treasure chest. We can still escape! Greed still held him even then. The old woman looked directly at Baltasar. You are your father's son. His heart nearly stopped. How do you know my father? He came here too. Baltasar staggered backward. No. He chose the sea instead of stay. Mama Efia's words returned instantly. The sea only collects debts. His father had never drowned accidentally. He had fled this island. The old woman pointed toward the trees. A tall man emerged slowly from darkness. Older, weathered, thin, but unmistakable. Baltasar's father. Alive! Nalia had inherited his eyes exactly. Baltasar could not breathe.
His father looked broken by years of guilt. "I tried to return," the man whispered, "but they would have followed me." Rage exploded inside Baltasar. "You left us!" Tears filled the old fisherman's eyes. "I thought staying away protected you." Before Baltasar could answer, Osa suddenly attacked one of the island people with his machete. Everything changed instantly. The silent crowd erupted violently. Osa ran toward the shore carrying the treasure chest. Several island men pursued him. Baltasar heard shouting. Then a horrible scream. When he reached the cliffs, he saw Osa dangling desperately above crashing rocks below, still clutching the chest with one arm. Baltasar stretched out his hand. Drop the chest. But greed had become stronger than survival. "I can hold both." "You cannot." The chest slipped. For one brief moment, Osa chose the gold instead of Baltasar's hand. That single choice killed him. He vanished into the roaring black waves below. The sea swallowed him immediately. Nobody returned. Baltasar collapsed in horror. His father approached slowly. "You must leave before dawn," he warned. "Once the tides change, they will never allow it." "But you?" The old man smiled sadly. "Some people leave home once. Others never truly return." Together, they reached the canoe before sunrise. The island people watched silently from the cliffs. None tried stopping him. But the old woman called out one final warning. "Tell your village the rule still stands." When Baltasar returned alone, the village erupted in fear and confusion. Keme and Osa were gone. Baltasar told everything. Most refused to believe him, until Mama Efia looked into her son's eyes and understood instantly. That night, Tatangumo gathered the villagers beneath the silk cotton tree. Without surprise, the old diviner nodded slowly. "The island was once a wound," he said. "Now it is a scar. Some scars must never be reopened." Baltasar himself changed forever. He married, raised children, and repaired boats like his father once did. But every new moon, he walked alone to the shore carrying a lantern. He never explained why. Yet, old Nalia understood. Somewhere beyond the dark waters stood an island holding the father they both lost twice. And on certain nights, just before dawn, another lantern answered him faintly from the distant cliffs of Ekam-Mboka. In Africa, elders say a man who ignores the warnings of his ancestors may gain wealth briefly. But he may also discover why those warnings survived longer than kingdoms. And the people of Mbini Nsomo still teach their children this truth. Not every forbidden place hides monsters. Sometimes it hides the terrible history of human beings who became monsters to survive. Remember, he who insists on catching a fish bigger than his boat risks having no boat or fish.
My dear ones, this is where our story ends for now. But tell me, what did your heart feel as you listened? Share your thoughts in the comment, You know Grandma loves to hear from you. And don't forget, press that subscribe button, like the story, and ring the little bell so that every time I come back here, you will be the first to join me. Until then, may your paths be safe, fruitful, and peaceful. Remember, keep your heart warm, your spirit curious and kind.